Afternoon, members of the media and public of Trinidad and Tobago, and in particular, our Venezuelan brothers and sisters who have gone through the registration process and come here today as we commence the handing out of the registration cards. As you all are aware, we went through a registration process that was quite a well-run and efficient and a properly monitored registration process that ended on the 14th of June of this year. Coming out of that process, as I've said before, we managed to register 16,523 Venezuelans. As we said at the outset, even before the registration process began and we set out the procedures and the policies, after going through the physical registration process, as you all know, took place in 3 places, in Port of Spain, in San Fernando, and in Tobago, we said to the population, and in particular those Venezuelans who were participating in the registration process, that we would have a due diligence exercise. Part of this due diligence was us checking to make sure that the information provided in the forms was accurate and do a verification of it with Interpol, other intelligence agencies if necessary, as well as just finding out from the records of the Venezuelan authorities whether persons were who they said they are. So for example, when Stuart Young put that he was from Area X, we then checked that with the authorities in Venezuela to see whether Stuart Young really was a Venezuelan and whether what I put on my form married with their records. That process with 16,523 people was going to take some time. Again, at this stage, I would like to thank the immigration authorities, those persons working in the immigration division, all of the men and women under the leadership of our Chief Immigration Officer, Ms. Charmaine Gandhi Andrews, and her Deputy Chief Immigration Officer, Mr. Penko, and all of the men and women in immigration who worked hard, the members of staff of the Ministry of National Security, our Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and our intelligence services who worked along with us to get this due process completed. It's still in the process because it's 16,000 people. But today we begin the distribution of the cards to those Venezuelans who have qualified and who are registered now. I'll share one of the cards with you all so you all get an idea. There are a number of security features on this card. It's Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Ministry of National Security. Everyone has a PIN on it, which is a permit number. There's the signature of the Minister of National Security, your surname, your given names, the date of birth, the date of issue, and the date of expiry. We've taken a decision in the first instance that these cards will all expire in 6 months. Because again, as part of our process, we said in 6 months you have to come back in for verification, at which time we will make sure we'll get a better idea of what people are doing, and it gives us another opportunity to interact. On the back of the terms and conditions, there's a specific security seal, another very specific identification number that then is utilized in our security system, that we have a barcode on the card that we can then swipe this barcode and pick up the person's information. So on the front of the card is everyone's photograph and the information I've just referred to. And then on the back, we have the terms and conditions, the holograph, the coat of arms, and then the security barcode. So ladies and gentlemen, exactly as we said, we have continued to fulfill our mandate. It has been a smooth process. There may be some persons who have failed our due diligence, and we will deal with them in accordance with the law. What I'd like to say at this stage is that persons, when you are given your card, you have to have your registration card with you at all times. This is your identification in Trinidad and Tobago. Persons who are found not to have been registered, the laws of Trinidad and Tobago apply to them, and we will deal with them accordingly. If you lose your card, because persons have asked if they lose the card, of course we ask that you try your best not to lose the card. There's no charge for the initial card. If you lose the card, you have to go through the normal process for just like us Trinidadians. If we lose our ID card, our driver's permit, our passport, you will be required to report it at the police station, and we will also require you to swear a statutory declaration with respect to the loss. Because if we find out that you claim you've lost your card and it turns up somewhere else and you're part of that, you will be charged and deported. Persons are asked to keep the card on them at all times, as I said a short while ago. So again, ladies and gentlemen, people of Trinidad and Tobago, I am very grateful for all of those men and women who have worked very hard to make this a continued success. As we begin the distribution exercise today, I will pass over to Ms. Gandhi Andrews, the Chief Immigration Officer, for her to explain the process of now the collection of the cards and how we intend to distribute the cards. The police service and the defense force will continue to assist us in terms of securing the facilities where these cards will be distributed. We have a specific system in place where persons will be contacted and they will come in when contacted to get their cards. It will be taking place on the afternoon period, and Ms. Gandhi Andrews will give us the details of how we expect to distribute these cards. I ask that the continuation of this exercise be an orderly one. We will have law enforcement here. We don't expect anyone to be disorderly. If you're disorderly, then we will deal with you in accordance with the law. But by and large, we have seen, having gone through a very hectic 2-week period with the registration, that the Venezuelan citizens have been very peaceful and abiding by the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. So members of the media, I thank you all. I'll pass over to Ms. Gandhi Andrews now, and I will then take some questions at the end. You want to shift across? I'll just come to this.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Today is a great day for us because we've had, I think, a stressful 2.5 months, perhaps even 3, since Minister decided that we would go ahead and grant this amnesty and have this registration exercise. It is a huge task for the Immigration Division, having registered or received applications for well over 16,000 persons. We now have to verify the data that was provided to us, and of course verify that the person is in fact a Venezuelan national, because the card is only supposed to be issued to Venezuelan nationals, and then to ensure that they have no criminal history. So behind the scenes, there's a lot of work since the end of the exercise on the 14th of June. There has been a lot of background work, and it continues, because you would recognize it's 16,000 plus records we have to verify and then produce cards for all of them. With the cards, what we don't want is for persons to be hundreds of persons coming in and the cards are not ready. And the reason why we ask persons, Venezuelan nationals, for a contact number, phone number, and email address is so that we can contact you via that media and let you know that your card is ready and where you can come and collect it. For the most part, the cards will be issued from this office initially during the period from 1 in the afternoon till about 5 in the afternoon for those persons who have been contacted. And it's just those persons who have been contacted, because you may come here and the card simply is not ready. The card we are very proud of in terms of brainstorming, and my officers who are qualified in document forensics, etc., have designed a card which has very unique security features in it. Unlike our passport, no card is really foolproof. Our passport is, by the way. And we know that persons will try to forge, that's a given. But there are safeguards within this card that we can verify at any given point in time that this card was genuinely issued to a very specific individual. So as Minister said, there's a unique number that goes with the card. The card has a very particular design that was created for the Ministry of National Security. There are other security features, different colors. There are holograms. There's a foil at the back here, which if you try to remove it, will disintegrate. That's part of the security feature. There's a feel of steel on it, just like how you would run your finger across a dollar bill and whatnot. And sometimes if you examine your passport, you will see it on your passport as well. That feel of steel as you run your finger across the counterfoil that is at the back of the card. And there are some other security features, the unique barcode. No, I'm not telling them all. Right? Just the very obvious ones that you can see the barcode as unique to this card, and the picture of the individual, and we're proud of the card. I can say that much. So it is for those persons who are contacted. It's a process of course, processing the cards. And as soon as we process the card, we will contact the persons individually. The numbers, and that is the receipt that they would have received during the registration exercise, also carries with it a very unique number. And that is the registration number that we would have given to them when they registered with us. This number will be published on the ministry's Facebook page so that any person can go online and they can check to see if the number is there and they know the card is ready, and they can come in and collect the card with your receipt, because this is the number that we are going to use to retrieve the information. Of course, if you lost the slip, you have to explain why, and then you'd have to produce your identification and whatnot, and we would then check the records to see if a card is issued to you. There are very specific terms and conditions that go with the card, with the issue of the card, and that is documented in a letter that we are issuing to the person together with the card that outlines in both English and Spanish what it says and what the terms and conditions are. Of course, this card is not an ID card per se, as what people would think is their voter's registration card. This has nothing to do with voting. This is simply a card that tells the Venezuelan national that they are permitted to enter and remain in Trinidad and Tobago and to work legally for the period of time stated on the card. And initially it's for 6 months from the date of issue. So this is what this card is about. It does not give the Venezuelan national any claim to citizenship or permanent residence in Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, it must be kept by the individual to whom it was issued. And if an immigration officer or any law enforcement officer asks you for it, then you must be able to produce it on demand. And that is clearly stated on the card and on the letter. And there are other terms and conditions. Of course, the holder must adhere to all of the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, because if anybody runs afoul of the law, we will cancel the card and the person will be subject to deportation. In 6 months, the person would be required to report to an immigration office and provide us with information as to where they might be employed, where they're staying, how they're supporting themselves, and we will do an assessment of the individual. And once they qualify, of course, the card would be reissued for another 6-month period, in line with what Minister would have said when we began the registration exercise. So this letter forms part of the issue of the card, and it carries your name, the number of the card, and all of the terms and conditions, and of course, the legal authority under which the card was issued. So that's pretty much what it is, Minister.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ganya Andrews, our Chief Immigration Officer. I'd just like to reinforce some of the very important points that CIO made a short while ago. This card is not a get-out-of-jail card. So you still have to abide by the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. If you break the laws of Trinidad and Tobago and we criminally charge you, you will be subject to deportation. Also, this card is in no way associated to anything else that is residency, citizenship. In fact, we have made it a condition of this policy that no time under this amnesty and this registration policy is going to count towards citizenship, a work permit, or residency, permanent residency, or anything like that, all of which are conditions upon which a person can look forward to voting in Trinidad and Tobago. So lest there is the stirring of that mischief once again, we're making it clear, this card and this registration process under this administration have absolutely nothing to do with persons being registered to vote. We also ask that when you're called upon to return to the immigration office, that you do so, you provide your information. The immigration officials have every right, along with those in the Ministry of National Security who worked with them, to be very proud of this process. This is a process that was by and large created, managed, the logistics of it worked out by immigration and others in Trinidad and Tobago with the assistance of the IOM, and we appreciate all of that help that was granted. But to see a system such as this come up, we conceptualized this in April of this year when I announced it at Cabinet, April 10th, if I remember correctly, and to see it go from a concept and an idea to the fruition of being able to hand out ID card, not an registration card, is nothing short of amazing and some great work done by the people at Immigration and National Security. We have set a very good path, we've blazed a trail despite all of the naysayers, and we've come now to the stage where we can deliver these cards. There's just one point that wasn't made that I'd like to make before I take a couple questions. This card does not negate the need for persons to have a visa. So even though you have this card, it doesn't mean that you can leave Trinidad and come back in without getting a visa. Our visa requirements remain in place. Venezuelans who want to leave Trinidad and come back, even though you've been registered, you have to apply for and be granted a visa. The visa system is working. As I said yesterday, it's not the first time we've implemented visas for non-nationals coming and going from Trinidad and Tobago. So thank you all very much for coming here today to see yet another phase and stage in this unique process. And I'll take a couple questions at this stage, and Ms. Gandhi Andrews is available as well. Yes, ma'am.